Well, let's go to the next part. Debbie and I are the national committee man. She's the national committee woman for the Republican Party. We are 3 non-committed votes that go to the Republican National Convention. We don't have to declare that we're anything. We can go whichever we want to. So we'll have 24 votes plus us 3 at the National Convention from Alaska. Our terms run until the end of the convention, and then if we're re-elected, we are reinstalled, and if not, then the new people would come in, and it's a 4-year commitment. And we're not paid anything to do the job, but what we do our own travel, we do our own hotels, our own meals, everything while we're there. So it is something that we do because we think it's an important thing. Debbie's on the committee for arrangements. She's helping to set up the National Convention, and she's been very active in that. I'm on the Rules Committee, and one of the things that I found out in life in general, and when I was in state senator, was to know the rules. Know the rules. Learn them. In the legislature, we had a book about that thing called the Mason's Manual of Legislative Procedure. And if you didn't know it, somebody was going to run over you. And you have to know those rules. You can go into the website for the Alaska Republican Party, and the rules are there. I suggest that you have a copy of the rules, that you look through the rules so you know what they are. The rules say Robert's Rules of Order prevail unless our rules have something in there to the contrary. So our rules are the Robert's Rules, except for our own rules that are in the printed rules of the party today. Remember that.
Is it online?
They're online.
AlaskaRepublicans.com. And then I think it's under, there's a drop down that I think is called About the Party or something like that.
Neither Debbie or I are committed to any particular party or any particular candidate at this point. What we're Republicans, and our job we have committed to is to try to have everyone get through the convention with as much order as we possibly can, and give you the opportunity to take advantage of the rules as we go through there as we possibly can. So anytime that there's a question that you want to ask on how the rules would be or any procedure that you might want to do, please feel free when you're there to come and ask us. We are not there as anybody's committed vote. We want to get through the convention and do it so that we can support everyone. If you're a Rob Paul, if you're a whatever, you can count on one thing. We're going to try to give you the assistance you need to be able to get through that. We encourage you to have your own floor managers, so to speak, in your groups from your delegations, so that you have someone who can speak to those motions that are going to be made and that represents the viewpoint of the entire group. Don't wait until you get there and then who wants to talk about that? Find your person to be your floor manager to work with you to talk about the motions and bring your opinions up. Get somebody who can express themselves and get those opinions out there. It's vital that you do that. Don't feel intimidated at any time. If you are, someone will run over you. I guarantee you it'll happen. It happens in life. That's the way it is. Don't be shy. And if you do have that question, ask it. Ask it. Don't be shy on it. There's no stupid questions. The most stupid thing you can do is not to ask a question when you have one. One of the things that I carry around with me a lot is a little tiny book called A Readable, Authoritative, Easy-to-Use Guide to Money Meetings, Robert's Rules. It's a short version. It gives me a little bit of an idea when I have a question. You can go to the bigger version later, and you've got a nice little cheat sheet that you got here today.
We may have more copies of this at the state convention too.
And we'll have them available for you at the convention. But this little book, you can get something like this over at a bookstore. It's just short, it's small, it's easy to get to, it's short, and it's how it does it, types of motions and so on.
There's bigger, thicker ones like that.
Yep, they're bigger ones. This will do for most of the things that you need to have if you also want something. You can get one of those and have it at your table, wherever, make sure it's available. But I absolutely believe if you know the rules, you're in an advantage in any kind of a meeting that you're in. So learn those rules and go through them. One of the things that I would say, and then Debbie, I'll let you do it, always make sure that that it was brought up, but one of the things that I've seen most often is to hurry into without repeating the exact motion. The chair should read the exact motion that's being made so that everyone understands it. And there are times when a chair is trying to get something through that the chair wants passed will hurry into the vote. Don't let it happen. Stand, stop the motion, stop the momentum, make sure everyone understands it. It's fully restated, it's printed up on the board, whatever, so that you know exactly what you're voting on. That happens so frequently in many cases. When I was in the state senate and there was an amendment to the motion or the final motion, it was read exactly how it should appear. And it was on the record. And there will be a record. So you want to make sure that it's done that way. I don't think that, I'm not saying that anyone has any evil intentions, but sometimes when people want to get something done their way, they can hurry it through without full understanding, and that's something that we should always try to avoid. Yes?
Point of order, is that how you bring that up?
A point of order, absolutely, absolutely, could be brought up, and I would, and do it if you're, even if you're not by the mic, as Sue said, stand up, yeah, point of order, and then go up to the mic.
Yeah, because if they're moving fast and you've got to go down that aisle and get up there to that mic, it might be over with by the time you get up there. So
and there are many times, many times when they call for a division of the House. One, that could be, they'll ask for a standing or a hands up. You can ask for a secret ballot, a vote by ballot. And if anyone asks for that, I don't see if Sue mentioned that, I'm sure she would have, but you can ask for that and it has to be granted. You have to have that. So you don't have to then, have somebody know exactly how you voted, and one of your good friends across the table is going to vote the other way, and that way.
Is the second or just one person?
You can just ask for that, and then they'll give it to you. It has to. It's required. Yes.
Could you ask for a tally vote so that we make sure you get 2/3?
A ballot vote. If generally speaking, a 2/3 vote should be by either standing or raising your hand or by ballot. I mean, there has to be some way to verify the number. And generally the chair will appoint tellers to be able to count the vote. And those will either be for the written ballots or for to count this side of the house, you count that part, and you count that part. There will be some official tellers who will give them the vote, count of the vote, yes.
Well, on the last convention, the way we did it was each district, when they called for division, the district chair
would tell what it
their
was.
district
Correct.
ballot and take it up.
Yes, take it out, get your ballot for your district, your 20, your 6 members or whatever, and it will go to the teller.
Exactly.
So that you didn't have to have each individual person have a ballot. Yeah, that was true. Debbie, go ahead.
Okay. There's a couple of things I wanted to mention. One is that she talked about identifying yourself at the mic. When you go to the mic at the state convention, say your name and what district you're from. Debbie Jocelyn, District 6. Say that every time because the secretary is taking notes and she needs to be able to know. If you don't say that, they'll ask you, but just try to get in the habit of saying your name and your district number. And there's a couple little tips I was going to throw out there, and one is, I personally like conventions. Some people hate it. I love it. I see people from all around the state, some of whom I haven't seen since last time we had a convention. And so there's a lot to catch up on, and we do a lot of chatting in the hall, and some of that's really good and helps us to know how we want to move things forward. But I'll tell you what, when we get started in the convention hall and there's discussion underway and there's voting taking place, if you're out in the hall chatting with your buddies, you might miss something really, really important. So be sure that when we're in session, we're in that floor session, please be engaged, be in the convention. The people from your district elected you to go represent your district. So be in there and be paying attention. I've seen people, they're chatting, and all of a sudden everyone goes by and they're like, what did they vote on? So be aware that that can happen. The other thing is the agenda, the draft agenda that I have states that we will be done at 4 p.m. on Saturday, April 28th. The thing I see so often at these state conventions is that people read that and so they make flight arrangements or they make some plan to leave the convention at 4 p.m. or even 3 p.m. And I would encourage you to be flexible in your schedule and be ready for it to last longer. We don't want it to last into the night, but if it gets to going slow and we're not done yet, if you leave early, you might miss the election of the delegates or the election of officers or rules changes or something very, very important. And I've seen times when a lot of delegates left and things get pushed through that you just wouldn't believe because you're not there to stop it. So I would encourage you, make sure if you at all can to be there for the whole thing. If you find out that you're going to have to leave early, talk to your district chairman, get an alternate to take your place, if at all possible.
And I will tell you, I intend on making a motion when they approve the agenda, which is one of the first things that's done, to amend the agenda to not have a closing time for the convention. It says 4 o'clock. What I don't want to have happen is that we come up to 4 o'clock and we've approved the agenda and the chair says, the agenda says we're done at 4 o'clock, we're adjourned.
What I've seen happen sometimes in that case that Ralph's talking about is we still have all of our resolutions to deal with. And so maybe the chairman says, hey, we said we're adjourning at 4 o'clock. We don't have time to deal with these resolutions. We'll just let the Central Committee deal with those. And you guys, I would not let that happen because you guys are in charge of the Republican Party of Alaska, except when you're adjourned. And then the Central Committee takes over. So finish your business while you're there. And Ralph brought up,
I'm going to object to the agenda and ask that it be indeterminate for the adjournment.
And that will happen at our Central Committee meeting on Thursday. And I don't know what time the Central Committee meeting is yet, but it's always before the state convention. It has to be within 24 hours of the beginning of the state convention. The Central Committee will meet, and we have to approve the agenda, the temporary role that the chairman presents us with, the committee assignments. There was a fourth thing. I'll have to look back and see what that was.
Yeah, a border of information. In 2008, when it come to a tally, how many times did this happen at the convention? Where at that time
the close of the state convention is that the chairman will make appointments, and it depends. Some years I've seen us also vote about where the next convention's going to be. There's no rule says that the Central Committee has to be the ones that decide that. The convention could, but generally it's just tying up loose ends and appointments. And Randy is not running again, and it may be that we have a new chairman at the end of the convention depending on rules changes. And so that if we have a new chairman, they may want to make some appointments. And while we're talking about that, I'll bring that up just real briefly. We made a change to the rules in Juneau 2 years ago so that when you elect a new chair and a new vice chair of the party, they don't take seats until February 1st of the following year. And that is how it is now unless it gets changed. The other thing is there
is a proposed rule change that would affect that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people we've talked to favor doing it that way, you know, having a changing of the guard when we have our elections. And I'll say that we have a credentials and canvassing committee. The canvassing committee will be those tellers Ralph mentioned, and the credentials committee will be going through the list of people that are proposed to delegates and alternates to the state convention. They will make sure that you're from the right district, that you're Republican, that you paid your delegate fee, and that you're there. And when they get done with all of that, they'll have a tally of all of the delegates by district, and then at that point they should be able to tell whether or not they can seat alternates that may be present for some districts. And when they